What's going on, family? Yesterday, I got an interesting question from what I assumed to be a 14-year-old. You can never be so sure on the internet. Um, the person asked, they said, I'm 14 years old, and is it normal for a 14-year-old to masturbate? Is it normal for that person to masturbate every day? And I replied, and I said, in quotes, and that's why I felt like doing this video because I really wanted to give context to what I said. But I told the person, I said it's normal, but normal doesn't mean it's necessarily right. And what I mean by that is this: we all have this nature, we all have this sin nature, especially in particular when you're young, especially a boy, a child. Like when you hit puberty, your sex hormones start to really rage. And once they start to rage like that, essentially, naturally speaking, you want a vehicle to be able to express, if you will, uh, those hormones. You want to be able to release that energy, if you will. And one of the nearest vehicles to do that is via masturbation. But the thing that's terrible about it, of course, people say, well, Dominic, why would I have all these raging hormones and just hold that energy in? And you guys know what I mean by energy, right? I'm trying to be clean, right? Well, the thing is, God did design us as sexual beings, right? He designed us with hormones. Another thing that I'm about to say is going to sound controversial, but if you consider back in ancient times, people didn't really have to wait that long until they got married. I mean, people were getting married in their early, like 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So this whole notion of people waiting 20 years to have sex before they were married to get married was almost unheard of because people were getting married younger and they were having sex at a lot younger age. They were potentially some theologians, even suggested that the Virgin Mary could have been anywhere from 14 on up. You know what I mean? Or 12 on up, whatever. I think the theologians, I want to say like 14 on up. And because, society back then was an agrarian culture and they had children earlier because it was an economic, uh, children provided an economic advantage for families back then because, you know what, hey, look, we have kids, those kids can go into the farm. They could they could be, they could raise the cattle, they could do all these different things. So everybody had a specific job. It's not like kids these days just okay, get on a video game all day. No, kids actually worked. That's why in more modern times they have uh, laws against child labor and stuff like that because a lot of kids back in those days were heavily abused. Now, what does that have to do with sexuality? Well, simply this is that you have a kid that's 14 years old. I can only harken back to the days when I was 14 years old. And, um, you know, all of a sudden, puberty kicks in, it hits you hard. And you're told, okay, not to have sex before marriage because it's a sin. You know it's a sin. You're also told, like, hey, look, I can't get married, right? I can't get married right now because, I'm told I'm not mature enough, which is true. I'm not ready to get married. I'm not. It's not like I'm back in, you know, the 14, 1500s when I was actually making money, right? I was actually out in the field making money for a day. I was treated almost like a grown man at 14 years old back in those days. And so now I'm truly being taken care of. And so now not only do I have that situation going, but I'm in a situation where I'm going to have to wait. And because I'm waiting till I'm married, um, those hormones rage more, and I had to figure out a way to really express myself. Now, wisdom says, and here's the key for a kid, for a child who says, I have to wait till I'm married. I don't want to have sex. I want to stay celibate. Do the steps that I said before. Pray, worship, watch the conversations you get in, because I can just harken back to my days of 14. The reason it was easier for me initially at 14 because it was certain conversations I wasn't a part of. Those hormones existed, right? They were in me. The desire to have sex was there, but it didn't truly awaken in me until I started watching a lot of sexual stuff, until I was getting in sexual conversations, until I started masturbating. And you start to explore your body, and you like certain ways. Like I remember I was probably, I don't know, man, I probably about 10, 11 or whatever. And I remember something hitting my penis, and it felt good. I'm like, man, this feel good. And then that started me hunching. And my grandmother called it hunching, right? Which was me masturbating with my clothes on, keep, or what they call dry humping. So I got called dry humping on the TMI, but it's the truth. I got called dry humping on the floor. And she said, boy, stop hunching. Stop hunching, boy. Stop hunching. My grandmother called me hunching. I was so embarrassed. All I knew, this feeling that I had felt amazing. I didn't know it was sex. I didn't know what it was. I just knew that hunching felt good. And then later on, found out that no, you masturbate, right? Um, so to be honest with you, that was my one of my first forays into that. It just came because it just was a good feeling. So it was sort of an innocent thing, if you will. And then years later, I found out, oh, this is masturbation. This is, I shouldn't necessarily, I should be doing this. And I think the dangerous thing to that young man, or to all of you, is because it can lead to other things. That one little foray into hunching, if you will, it led me into wanting to explore other aspects of sex or sexuality. I wanted to be with different women. You sort of see what I'm saying? Wanted to get numbers and stuff. Like, okay, then you get into the salacious conversation. See, it ends up being a snowball effect. It goes from, man, if this feels good, man, I heard so and so said that having sex with a woman is like putting your penis in some warm apple pie. It feels like warm apple pie. I had that conversation in eighth grade. So you hear this and you're like, man, I need to graduate from hunching, and I need to go from hunching to the real thing. I need to give me a piece of that sweet potato pie, some of that apple pie. And then it goes from you graduating to getting the apple pie finally, to all of a sudden you just out here bad and messing with a bunch of different women. And for many of you, all doing God knows who else. And ultimately that graduates to you getting married and you cheating on your wife. I mean, see, all these things have a snowball effect. So to that young man, I would say, yes, it's totally normal to have your hormones rage like that. That's why the Bible talks about to stay away from youthful lust. Let's stay away. See, what's going on in your body is a normal process of growth. It's just your hormones raging, right? That's totally normal. It's just the way that you express it, whether or not it's sinful or not, because your body has a mechanism to be able to release that energy, and that's what we call a nocturnal emission, aka a wet dream. In other words, your body becomes so filled up with this energy. I say it like that, the sperm, that your body has a natural process to say, it's like It's like having a gauge. Okay, you feel yourself up so much, your body releases it. Now, when you masturbate and you become so accustomed to masturbate, you have created a pathway into your brain that says the only way to allow that energy out of your body, that steam, if you will, sort of like a conductor or a boilermaker, to allow that steam out of your body is through masturbation. When God never intended that, he created a way or an automatic gauge, if you will, for that expression, for that steam to come out, and that's called a nocturnal emission. The problem is we've 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 perverted that. We've messed with that gauge so much that now it's like our body can't release that energy because we've we've accustomed ourselves to doing it on our own. So now what you have to do is you have to go back, repent, you have to create another pathway so your body can be repaired, if you will, and it can do that normally. So that's my take on that. I think the issue is not that you're having those hormones because that's natural, right? The issue is how you choose to express that, how you choose to express it. Because I can sit up and tell you, young man, oh man, don't ever do this, don't ever do that. And I can only tell you what I did at 14 years old. I can only tell you, why I did what I did. A lot of it was because of rejection. A lot of it was because of hell. When I was at the age, I wasn't even really thinking that deep on masturbation. I just, like I said, I just sort of stumbled upon masturbation. I'm like, oh man, this feels amazing. Like, what is this? And then later, I was able to connect the dots and realize what I was doing was a wrong thing. But but by then I was sort of bound to it, and then all the sexual stuff that I was told, everything started to connect the dots. I put it to you like that. So how did I finally get to a point to where I understood that what I was doing was wrong? Was just through a lot of prayer, through a lot of worship, a lot of praising, understanding, staying away from certain conversations, because up until that point, realistically, I didn't really even have. I had, I don't really count 18-year-old, but really, when I was having sex, when I was 21 years old. So really, from about 12, 13, around the time you start masturbating up until 21, I was straight. But see, all those years of repression, if you will, and it's not just the repression that's the issue, is what you're doing when you're repressed. You can be a person that's celibate, and that's good. I would always tell people to defer to obeying to God, right? However, what are you doing while you're celibate? Are you one of these people that's celibate, but then you're looking at Playboy magazines all the time, or looking at porn on the internet, engaging in salacious conversations? So you can be celibate, yes, technically, but spiritually, you could be a whoremonger. So let me say that again. You could be celibate physically or technically, meaning that you never physically put your penis inside of a woman. And for you ladies, you never physically allowed a man inside of you, right? So, yes, you're celibate, right? And you're waiting, right? And that, kudos to you, right? However, spiritually, if you're engaging in whorish conversations, you're looking at porn all the time, you're just heaping up judgment on yourself. In other words, eventually what's going to happen is that all that stuff that you've meditated upon all those years is going to come out, And when it comes out, man, you're gonna be wild, man. You're gonna be a wild cat. That's why you hear stories of all these young ladies. You know, you hear these stories and people sort of laugh about it, but they'll say, "Man, when she was in high school, she was in junior high, man, she was quiet, but as soon as she got to college, she became a hoe." Like, where did this come from? Well, I could tell you where it came from. It came from the fact that probably all those years that she was repressed, she was engaging in sexual conversations. She was doing other sexual acts behind closed doors. Maybe she was masturbating, whatever the case may be. Then all of a sudden, once she got from behind her parents' doors, then all of a sudden, boom, boom, explosion. The light, the firecrackers had been become ignited, right? The match has been lit to the match. I mean, the fire has been lit to the match. That's what it is. It's not that she was just a bad person. It's just, as I've said in previous videos, the right stimulus was there to bring out what was put into her spirit via her meditation. That person meditated on filthiness all these years. They meditated on porn all these years. They meditated on weird sexual acts all these years. And so all of a sudden, they meet the representative, if you will, that gives them the opportunity to really express that. They meet the person that makes them quote unquote weak. They see this person and they swoon, and they're willing to do anything for them. And why is that? It's because of what they've been doing all those years while they've been celibate. So how does this refer or go back to what I'm saying with this young man and to any of you? Because this information, even though I'm addressing this 14-year-old, it really is valuable to all of you. Is this, what are you doing right now in your celibacy for those that are celibate? What are you doing right now for those that are married that are trying to have better relationships with your spouses? What are you putting in your spirit? And what I mean by your spirit, I'm saying, like, what are you watching? What type of conversations are you engaging in? What uh, type of stuff are you looking in your eye gate at? Because in the case of this young man, he wants to know, is this a normal thing? Yes, in the natural sense is normal, but in a spiritual sense it's not. And God asks us to walk with him in spirit and in truth. So in a way, science would tell you it's normal to just masturbate. It's just normal to do that. I personally think from a spiritual perspective, because he said it's a sin, that means that it's not normal. From a worldly perspective, yes, it's normal from the worldly. But as a Christian, it's not normal. It's abnormal. I defer to how God defines it. If he says it's a sin, it means it's not normal, right? And going back to hearkening back into what I said earlier, God gave you a natural mechanism to be able to release that, and it's called a nocturnal emission. And when you damage that process through masturbation, then you have to go back and you have to re-celibatize. I just made up a word, yourself, so that process could become healed, if you will, and ask God to help you to release that on your own. So your issue is not really the masturbation. Your issue is you figuring out. Here's the thing, right here, right here. This is the $1 million thing that's going to give you all the answers that you need. You have to figure out what is triggering you in order to make you want to masturbate in the first place. Let me say that again. You have to figure out what's triggering you to make you want to masturbate in the first place, because here's the thing. People just don't wake up and say, I want to masturbate, unless they're just totally taken over by demons, right? Most people masturbate because there's something that's triggering them. And if you can figure out how what the trigger is and how to defeat the trigger, then you won't masturbate. So then this question would be null and void. So then the question of, well, why do I feel like I have to masturbate? That's not the right question to ask. The right question to ask, young man, and to all of you that are stuck into masturbation is, what is triggering me in the first place? Why do I feel like I have to masturbate? What did I watch? What conversations did I get into? What pathways have I created in my brain that have made it possible, that have made it normal for me to want to masturbate every single day? And if you can figure that out, start there, then you'll be truly on your way to the road of recovery. Wow, 20 minutes in. For the people that's complaining about the length of the video, don't watch the whole video if you have to. Just watch it in bits and pieces again. But my goal is to give you guys excellent content. That's my goal. Excellent content, right? And excellent content that's going to help you overcome porn, masturbation, sex addictions, etc. Now, if you have any other questions, comments, hit me below. Just like that young man, hit me below. And if it felt compelling enough, just like I did for this young man, I'll do a video on it and give my take on it. If you have any more in-depth, want to know any more in-depth questions or need more in-depth tips and strategies, go to my website at www.pornaddictshelp.com, www.pornaddictshelp.com. Take my course. Take my course, man. You'll love it. And don't forget to share, like, and subscribe to this channel. Love you, big baby. Peace. Gia.